He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God, in Him will I trust. We have nothing to fear for the future, except as we shall forget the way the Lord has led us and is teaching in our past history.
This is Sam. We call him Sam because we don't know whether he's a Samantha or whether he's a Samuel. And that will be decided when he lays an egg or not. So for the moment, he's just Sam. Now, when this priest was there, my father had already died, remember?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when he was very sick and dying in the hospital, you also ended up in the same hospital. So I was running between you and my father. And then my father died, and you came home, and then Robert was born. And all of these problems started. And when this Catholic priest finally solved the problem, but actually had caught me in a trap to make me believe a lie, and it worked, because both you and I were going to go back to the church, back to rituals, but have a normal life and no relationship with God. Just a ritual.
Yeah, we were even able to go in our sports clothing to church. So we would go to church, you would do a few penances.
Penances, yes.
And then afterwards we would go in our sports clothes and go and do sport.
Exactly. There was no relationship with God, no knowledge of anything. And then we decided that it was so peaceful. And my father had died, and we had a little bit of money extra. And I was walking down our passage, and our passage had an archway and another archway through here, and there was a telephone there. And then you had to walk around to the dining room, and there was a little hatch where you served through to the kitchen. And when we had guests, you and I were constantly bumping into each other. Do you remember that?
Yeah, it was small.
It was small, and it was all built
Pokey.
up. Pokey, yes. And you had to pass through a doorway and pass food through a hatch and go around and all of these things. And I think we bumped into each other the 50th or 100th time. And I looked at this setup and said, this is not working for me, and it's not working for us. And I looked at the structure, and I climbed into the roof to see what the situation was there in the roof, what was a bearing wall and what was not a bearing wall. And having satisfied myself, I went and fetched a sledgehammer.
Without explaining to me what you were planning to do.
Were you annoyed with me?
I wasn't sure what was happening, and the next minute the hammer was flying in my kitchen, and I was screaming to you, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" "No, it's all fine. It'll be fine." And you kept on hammering.
And I took the entire wall down,
The whole
plus the
wall.
entire arch,
And
everything
the
in the
kitchen.
passage. I smashed everything to smithereens.
Yes,
And I never took any precautions, being me.
yes.
And all the carpets and everything were
All the
full of
rubble.
dust. And you were very pleased with my result, right?
No. I was watching the whole kitchen being demolished, and then I turned around and I saw our 3 children stand in the door. They were covered in dust, and their eyes were large.
But there was a huge space and no more bumping into each other.
Yes, but that took a while before we could use it.
And you said to me, "How am I going to cook now?"
Yeah.
And there was a little Primus stove in the garage, and I set it up for you in the garage, and I said, "There, what's wrong with that?"
One little stove. Yeah.
Yeah. In any case, we fixed it,
Mm-hmm.
but the kitchen was destroyed. It wasn't a very nice kitchen anyway. And so we set about finding someone who could build a nice modern kitchen for you
Open space.
with open space and open plan and all of these things. And eventually we ended up not only demolishing the kitchen, but demolishing just about everything else as well. And it turned out actually quite nice in the end, right? But then this carpenter arrived, and he was a German. And when he walked in, he said to me, "I just want to know that I walk with Jesus." That was a red flag. That was a red flag for me, being an atheist. But I had this dichotomy because
You were going to the church.
I was going to the church, and yet I was an atheist. How do you do that? And then I snapped at him, and I said to him, "You walk with Jesus, I just want a kitchen." And he got the message. But he's a stubborn fellow.
And he gave you
A
a
pamphlet.
pamphlet.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I looked at this thing, and I didn't want to be rude because I already felt embarrassed because I'd been rude already. So I took it and I put it in the drawer. And he provided the kitchen. And for 1 year, approximately, that pamphlet remained in the drawer, untouched, for a whole year. Just shows you, stuff in a drawer, you don't actually rummage through it again, right? So maybe you should just get rid of all the stuff that bothers you.
It's good we didn't.